Call the Finance Audit Tender Administration Committee Wednesday, October 30th to order. Due to a technical difficulty, we're a little late in starting, it's 12:14. I'd like to, number one, call the meeting to order. Number two, declarations of conflict of interest. Are there any?
None.
Seeing none. Number three, approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, just under approval of agenda, I'd like to add an item under the closed agenda. We don't have
There is no closed agenda. You'd like to add one?
Yes.
Okay. And so we'll make that,
And it falls under section 119, subsection B.
one what?
1B.
One is in Bob, 1B?
1 as in 1, B as in Bob.
Yep.
Information received in competence which, if disclosed, would likely be prejudicial to the municipality or parties involved.
Yeah.
Subsection 1E, a matter still under consideration on which the council has not yet publicly announced a decision about which discussion the public would likely prejudice a municipality's ability to carry out its negotiations.
Okay.
The issue is tax equity.
Okay.
There's also the status of the Federation Center. And I just want to put this on there, I may not get anywhere with it this time. Property on Malpeck Road. So it's section.
So I'm going to recommend that we go to closed and I'll make that 6A, and then everything else will drop down from to B, C, D, E, F, and G, if you will. Okay.
Excuse me, sir, but do you want to deal with that first?
Yes.
I would think that if there's been people waiting till the quarter after, you probably should do the agenda, then go into.
Yeah, I would put it as G.
People waiting.
I would put it as G, that's all right with the other members.
All right, okay,
Yeah.
thank you. All right, that's fine, okay. So we're just talking about addition then. 6G as discussed under 119, 1B, and the three items: tax equity, status, Confed Center, property, Malpeck Road. Thank you. All right, moving on.
I'll move the agenda.
Move the agenda. So moved by Councillor Bernard, seconded. Councillor Drawn, thank you. Approval of previous draft minutes of October 7th, 2024. Any discussion on those minutes? So moved by Councillor Bernard, seconder, Councillor Drawn, thank you. Business arising from the minutes. Discussion, any business arising from the minutes?
I have one item that I can provide information for. There was a question last meeting about how canoe procurement made money. And I got an answer to that. As suspected, the suppliers have, as part of their contract with canoe procurement, they pay a fee to canoe procurement. And also in some of the contracts, there would be a fee also paid to the regional federation. So in our case, Federation of PEI Municipalities also may receive a fee depending on the contract. And those contracts are all available to see on the canoe procurement website.
I think you answered that at the council meeting.
No? You didn't have that?
That was a guess, but it was confirmed. Yeah.
Clarified, okay. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Dan. Is there any further questions or clarifications to Dan on that point? Seeing none, okay, thank you. So again, we'll go into our so there's no business arising from the minutes, so we're on 6, discussions report 6A, Charlottetown Special Events Reserve Fund. Director of Integrated Growth, Michael Russ. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The report in question is on page 6 of your package. The purpose of the report is to seek council support to permit SURF to become an incorporated body independent of the city corporation. In 2006, the tourism industry approached the government of PEI with a request to pass legislation allowing for the establishment of a tourism accommodation levy to help grow the tourism industry. This request was met with legislation for municipalities across the island to establish their own bylaws to allow for the collection of such a levy. Charlottetown's Tourism Accommodation Levy bylaw was established on March 12, 2007, initially allowing for a 2% levy to be collected by the city of Charlottetown on stays less than 30 days in fixed roof accommodations with 10 or more rooms. Over the years, the bylaw has been amended to increase the levy to 3%, and its application has been expanded to include all fixed roof accommodations regardless of size. The accommodation levy is collected by the city of Charlottetown, guided by a memorandum of understanding and distributed in equal measure between three parties: the Special Events Reserve Fund, or SURF, Discover Charlottetown, and the Hotel Association of PEI, who in turn redirects their 1/3 to Meetings and Conventions PEI. The city retains a 3% administrative fee on revenues. SURF was established to attract events to Charlottetown, including sport, culture, and festivals, and from time to time, meetings and conventions, which have a pronounced tourism focus and strong potential for incremental tourism growth. SURF is administered by a management committee made up of 5 individuals involved in the tourism industry who are appointed by the city of Charlottetown. So 3 members from the city, 1 member from Discover Charlottetown, and 1 member from the Hotel Association of PEI. SURF is the envy of municipalities across the country, and its value and impact on the industry cannot be overstated. The SURF committee awards over $500,000 annually in support of events and would otherwise approach the city for funding. The fund is a win-win for the city and for the industry. Money invested by way of grants is used to sustainably support events which drive more tourism business to the destination and in turn more revenue to the industry at large. Moving forward, like other partners in the accommodation levy, SURF would like to move forward with becoming an incorporated body independent of the city. This move would not only allow for alignment with the Municipal Government Act, but also more clearly define SURF as industry generated funding rather than municipal taxpayer generated funding. While the city would continue to serve as the secretariat to SURF, given the associated legislation, is the city's and knowledge of applications is held by city staff. Incorporation would lessen the workload of the city's finance department, as SURF grants would be issued by SURF and not the municipality. Functionally, incorporation would change very little. Operationally for SURF, the mandate would largely remain the same. However, staff currently serving as voting members of the SURF committee would move into ex officio positions and be replaced by city-appointed voting members from the tourism industry. Further, the city would no longer appoint the chair. Rather, the members would elect a chair amongst themselves, which is common practice for such organizations. It's the desire of the SURF committee that incorporation would be effective April 1st of 2025 in order to align with the current fiscal year end. Staff are currently in the process of drafting proposed amendments to the Tourism Accommodation Levy bylaw, which, with council's support, will also include SURF's incorporation. Staff are also considering the required amendments to the Accommodation Levy Memorandum of Understanding, which is also up for renewal. So therefore, at this time, staff's recommendation is that council supports SURF's request to become a legally incorporated body independent of the city corporation.
Great. Councillor
Yep.
Bernard?
Thank you. I'm just wondering, Mike, so this has been very important to the city for a number of events that we've been able to attract here. As you said in your preamble there, it's an envy of a lot of municipalities. So I'm just wondering, when I read through this, we've been doing it for 18 years. And we want to change it because of the MGA Act, the Municipal Government Act. And so what part of the MGA are we talking about here that this is not lining up with?
So through the chair, my understanding is, what is in question today is that effectively it's considered city funds. And so some of those decisions that are made on the funding should be coming back to the city and city council for a decision. Thereby, so in moving to an independent operation, they would be able to fulfill all those needs without our involvement in that.
Okay, because I need to understand this a little better, because I was always understanding this is not city money. The city, through the provincial government, have given us permission to be able to put this percentage on for SURF, but the committee, SURF itself, makes the decisions, not the city. So this is not really the city's money to be spending in the first place. So I'm not sure how that doesn't align with the MJ. The only thing I'd be a little afraid of, and I mean, you know, if the committee wants to go through, it's not the end of the world. It's just that we have members from the city that's appointed to the chair, and we have members that are voting, which I think helps when we want to bring in events to the city of Charlotte. Now, so we still have ex officio, so I mean, we should still have the support there. So not a hill to die on. I'm just wondering why, like, usually when you have a lot of success, you don't want to touch it. So I'm just hoping there's no underlying things that we don't see that could change here. And so I'm kind of, the MJ, this is not our money, so I don't know how the MJ lines up with us having to make these changes. Because it's not our money. We just have permission to collect it. That's it.
So again, through the chair, my understanding is that this move would make all those things possible, and so for them to operate independently, they would create this independent organization to offer all those same services and not have to meet that same test that we would as a city corporation. But I would maybe defer to our CFO if he has anything further to add to that.
Thanks for the chair to Councillor Bernard. My understanding is that there were some challenges for SURF in terms of just procedural matters in terms of how they conducted meetings and so on. I think as they're set up now, they really kind of are a committee of council, and some of the procedural matters and some of the city policies are kind of being extended to them, which...
And that's what I'm kind of wondering though, Dan, how does it become, like if it's not our money, not our jurisdiction for that, so how is it that it's even tied to the MGA at all? Even how they're having their meetings and so on, how is that tied to us when all we did was get permission from the province to be able to collect the extra 2%?
Yeah. Well, I mean, certainly none of it's our money. It's
Yeah.
even the tax revenue is taxpayers' money. So but the revenue that's collected under the Tourism Accommodation Levy is facilitated under the Municipal Government Act. So that it's a provision in the act that allows a municipality to charge a tourism accommodation levy. So it is revenue to the city, and how we choose to spend that money.
We don't have that choice. That's what I'm saying. I think there's a disconnect. We don't have that choice. Spend the money. It's not ours. We just have permission to collect it. That's it.
And hand it over.
We can't say how it's spent. That's up to the committee that's there now, the SURF committee.
Yep. My understanding in terms of how the money gets spent is that it's laid out in a memorandum of understanding
Yep.
between the
One
city.
check to DCI, one check goes to the city, one check goes to hotel.
And I know that agreement has expired, so that agreement has to be,
And I'm okay with that.
Yep.
I'm more curious of what's causing us to change after 18 years. It's been really successful. I kind of don't want to see any, and like I say, it may continue, like Mike's preamble, it may continue to be fine. Just that when you take away some of the people off the board, voting members, and you have ex officio, could we be looking down the road and saying, wish we didn't do that? Do we have to do it? I was always understanding that it's not tied to the MJ because it's not our money.
So in this revised framework, the city would still have appointees to
Ex
serve.
officio
So,
though.
well, so in the report, you'll notice that
Just while you're looking for that, Michael. So, Mr. Chair, again, when we go to a closed meeting, as an example, we have to go to this section 119 and go through the subsections to go to that closed meeting. So in your report, as Councillor Bernard said, where does it tie into the MGA? What section? And while you're looking for that, Michael, who initiated this conversation? Was it Downtown Charlottetown Inc.? Was it the City of Charlottetown? Was it you, or the CFO, or the Director of Community Services? Who initiated to change this way of doing business since 2006? Could you answer that one first?
So to answer your last question, this issue predates my time here at the city, so I don't have all the context around that. I understand, however, that there was a discussion between the SURF committee and our CAO.
Oh,
So I'm sure she would be able to weigh
Okay.
in more on this at some point in the future, or we can report back if you like. The legislative authority is outlined in the report, but
what section? Could we find that first?
161.
Oh,
Yeah.
right now.
Because I don't think we have to, I wanna get a little more information about this, because if we're looking at Discover Charlottetown to replicate what DCI is, Downtown Charlottetown Inc., which is an incorporated body, they have an annual meeting. Like, the annual meeting is not in the terms of references or the proposed bylaws or constitution here. So there's some things I have questions to ask, but I really wanna find out who initiated it. Was it Downtown Charlottetown Inc. or was it the City of Charlottetown? And I keep saying, if it's not broken, why do we have to fix it?
if, again, through the chair, appreciate the questions around this. I just wanted to point out
Yeah.
so those positions on the SURF committee would be replaced by appointed members to vote. And then those existing members of the committee that are, city staff would be ex officio members.
So on DCI, Downtown Charlottetown Inc., we have one appointment by City Council. This new proposal doesn't allow us to do that.
Which is what I'm afraid of.
That's-
I mean, it may not be at the end of the day a big deal, but I'd like to get a bit more
I agree with
information.
you. I think we have a stake in here. We have the legislative authority to collect the TAL. We don't keep any money for administrative reasons, and it goes to Downtown Charlottetown Inc., so it's SURF, Meetings and Conventions, Prince Edward Island, and what's the other one? Downtown, okay, SURF,
Discover.
And,
Discover Charlottetown, so they get the money. And if you look at the budget, it's a little over 2 million. And now with STRs as part of that town, that's gonna continue to increase.
Don't we keep a small piece though for
For administration.
admin piece?
How much?
3%.
3%.
I think he said that was still in there, right, Mike?
Yeah, so if I could just comment, like, I know sitting on the Economic Development Committee, this was discussed, and there was a group come in, John Cudmore, Kevin made a presentation, and it was my sense of
This was
that.
forwarded to finance, wasn't it? This was forwarded to finance.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
recommended.
Yeah, and my feeling after that presentation and movement and certainly at Economic Development was that it seemed to be progress along. It's, what's in front of us kind of made sense, but with some further discussion and questions, if there's no urgency on timing of this, or it's assuming it's not time sensitive, can we possibly defer to get some more clarification on?
I guess that I'm more like, and the mayor said, and I said it earlier, like, if it's been very, very successful, and if I don't have to change any of that, I would just assume not. But if we have to for a reason, then fine. But I would like to know what that reason is, and what's the tie into the MGA?
Yeah.
And are we reading it right, or is it an interpretation that's not correct? Because it hasn't been a problem before. It's never been an issue.
Chair, I don't understand there's any urgency on this, so we can certainly defer it and.
Can we do that and at least have confidence at the committee level before, because I don't want to be pushing this up to council and then we're all, and then everybody's in it. Till we can provide the answers, I guess, and
We can certainly provide additional information.
Yeah, and I think the CAO will have to be here because I think she was part of the initial discussions because you arrived after this started, at the discussion level. The other thing too, Michael.
Well, even we could just have that clause, like where's the tie into the
Yeah,
MTA?
that's-
I'd like to see that, that's what I don't understand, because we don't, it's not our money.
And with Downtown Charlottetown Inc., which was also an initiative that was created during our first 2 terms in council back in 2006, there is in their bylaws, there's an annual meeting where they select the members for the executive and members at large. But we still have one appointment that's voted on by council to sit on that board. Right now, John McAleer, who's Chair of Finance and Administration, sits on that board.
So in light of time in our agenda, can the takeaway here be for Dan and Mike to, some of the points and questions that are being asked, and take it back and consult with CAO and what have you, and then it may come back at committee and.
A point of clarification, Chair, through the Chair to Councillor Bernard. The tourism accommodation levy is provided in section 161 of the MGA. And it allows council to collect the levy. It doesn't say how we have to spend it, it just gives us the power to spend it, or to collect it. And then we, by agreement with those 3 organizations, have chosen to allow them to disperse the money that we
And I
collect.
believe in the conversation with the province at the time, that was all discussion, that's why the province gave us permission to be able to put that percentage on.
Yeah.
But it wasn't extra revenue come to the city, that was made very clear, that it was the check to be cut to the 3 different associations, we can just retain for administration. So that's why that's why I'm a little, like, are we really tying into MTA here? Because the province is the one that gave us permission in the first place.
Yeah.
So,
Just, Dan, before you come back to it, the TAL was presented pre-MGA. We were under the old Municipalities Act of Prince Edward Island.
Right.
And also under the Charlottetown Area Municipalities Act, same with Summerside. So this MGA predates, is after what took place. So I think this is just a tie-in from the Municipalities Act of Prince Edward Island. That's all it is. Anyways, I think we just need some more answers to some of the questions.
Okay,
alright, thank you.
good. Can we move on?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. 6B, Plan and Heritage Contract Award for the zoning bylaw. And that's again Michael Russ.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this report already went
You're
to.
a show today, Mike.
He's the showstopper.
This report already went to the Planning and Heritage Committee for recommendation, I think it was last week. So a public request of proposals for the review and update of the zoning subdivision bylaws project was posted earlier this year. The work is part of the City of Charlottetown's initiative list for the Housing Accelerator Fund, which is funded. I know council has received information about the spending plan for that in the past and the actual agreement with CMHC, but happy to chat about that further as well. So this particular project is required to be completed by the fall of 2025. RFP reviews were completed by the Planning and Heritage Management Team through individual evaluations and averaging the combined scores. The proponent being recommended for this award is based on the highest average total score, which factors in price along with the contents of their technical submissions and alignment with the project scope. So there's a table in the report outlining the scoring and prices submitted before tax. Given all that, the staff recommendation at this time is that council accepts the bid from Fathom Studio in the amount of $198,000, $198,160 before taxes for the review and update of the city's zoning and subdivision bylaws. Happy to answer any questions that committee may have.
Councillor, thank you for that report, Michael, or update. Councillor Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mike, just curious, so this is the funding for this to come from the Housing Accelerator Fund that we got approval for, correct?
That's correct.
So has there been any zoning changes made since we've accepted the Housing Accelerator funding money? I know they had a number of requests in there. Have we made any changes to the zoning to accommodate that?
It's a good question through the chair. We haven't made specific zoning amendments related to the initiative list. As of yet, we've been focusing our energy on the completion of the city's official plan,
Right.
which provides that policy guidance to move some of
Right.
these
So-
pieces
so-
forward.
So those commitments that we said when we signed for the funding will still go to the public for review. We haven't made any of the changes.
Absolutely, and that's the intent.
That's the intent of this, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect, perfect.
Yeah, and that's where, in this case, if the agreement is, or the recommendation is to take the Fathom Studio, 198,000, or if it's 109,000 or whatever the number, whichever, that again comes out of the half money, or there's.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. The funding for this project is coming directly from the funding provided through CMHC and the Housing Accelerator Fund agreement.
So, okay. So no changes are enacted until this process is done and the public had the review. So for example, one of the things that I'm thinking of is every lot that's available becomes as of right for the 4-unit. That you can construct a 4-unit on. So, and we talked about that, and it's supposed to be, we'll be looking at that separately, but that will be part of a full discussion on the zoning and within the official plan, the new zoning changes that we'd be looking for through this. Because I'm just wondering how it works. We've already got housing accelerator funding, but we haven't changed any zonings. So I wonder, what was the commitment that we made?
Through the chair, there's a number of items in the initiative list that the city committed to moving forward. This is just one piece. The official plan
Okay.
is one of the pieces which
That makes sense.
we are very far along on. In fact, we're ahead of the original schedule on that. So I just want to make it clear for the public that the official plan doesn't actually implement some of those zoning changes
Right.
that you were referring to. It provides the high level policy framework so that we're able to move some of those forward. But this project that we're talking about today is to initiate a full review and rewrite of the existing zoning and subdivision
So
bylaws,
then-
or zoning and development bylaw, it's called here.
So then this particular winner of this contract will be the one that will be hosting the public meetings.
Absolutely, so
Okay.
part of the criteria that management was scoring these proposals on, one of the key things we were looking for was a very robust public engagement plan.
Perfect.
And that'll be really essential for us to both communicate what is being proposed to members of the public, how it may impact them, and how we're trying to meet our obligations under the funding agreement.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Councillor Drown, go ahead.
No, I just want a clarification on the, Councilor Bernard said something about the 4-unit as a right. We never went down that road yet, right?
No.
That's not.
No.
That's not,
That's what I was trying to get clarification on, that we didn't commit to that.
no.
And as appropriate.
Yeah, as appropriate, so,
We're technically possible.
yes.
Yeah,
as
but
appropriate.
my understanding was, and I hope we continue to get on this road, was that anytime a single lot comes up, it would be discussed through council first, if it's appropriate for that subdivision, because you have lots of established subdivisions, it's not appropriate to put it in.
As of right doesn't send it back to council. As of right stays with the department.
Exactly.
And that's what I'm scared of, because as a right becomes as a right.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
but
That's
it's not
what
as
we
right
wanted.
yet,
That's not what we wanted, not yet.
no,
Because
we'd
it-
have to discuss that, but it's
Well,
not on the table.
They did put in for though, it would be discussed, what was the wording you used, John?
As appropriate?
Appropriate,
Or where
and that was the
technically
idea of putting that wording, it was as appropriate that it would be discussed. It would go to a public meeting, I would hope, in that neighborhood to discuss that particular vacant lot being eligible for 4-unit or not.
No.
No.
No, goes to the
So
department.
then what do you mean as appropriate?
As appropriate, like for example, I live at 135 Spring Park Road. I'm a corner lot. To put a 4-unit there is not appropriate and
If it was empty.
and it's not technically possible. Well, I could tear down the house, but I'm not gonna do that. But my point is,
But
that lot,
if you tore the house down,
the
you
lot is
couldn't
too
put a
small.
4-unit there.
The lot is too small
Yeah.
for 4 units.
That was not appropriate.
Not appropriate, not technically possible.
So
So if I can-
an established subdivision, you may have a vacant lot that's established for 30 years. It's just a residence area. It may not be appropriate for a 4-unit, but you talk to the residents in that area. And that's my concern, because you know what, you can buy the next house, tear it down and put an 8-unit up in the middle of an
I don't
established
think that's
area.
gonna happen.
Why not? People are doing it in Toronto now.
Well, no, but in Ontario provincial legislation, right now, you had, as of right, up to 3 units on your property, all over Ontario, all over Ontario.
Yeah.
Not just Toronto, Mississauga, all over Ontario, so.
Just to provide some clarity around this discussion, we're not actually
Yeah.
there yet. We're, early days in this overall discussion. No decision has been made on what that will look like. As committee members have all indicated, there's a discussion around 4 units as appropriate. That is the expectation that CMHC will hold us to. So that's what this project will be about, and some of these other initiatives in the Housing Accelerator Fund initiative list. Staff will be working with an external consultant to explore and engage the community to help determine what appropriate means in this local context and come up with, the rules of the road, and so that both residents and developers know what the expectations are before they start a project.
So, Mr. Chair, if I could just ask, and I brought this up at the planning, we discussed this at the Standing Committee in Planning, Development and Heritage. So Upland Planning, they are currently doing the official plan comprehensive review. They're the lowest bid, and I know overall score 89-78. There's a small point difference on the overall score. Why would, and I brought this up, Michael, at the meeting, why would we go with another consulting firm for this issue?
Ultimately, staff look at all these proposals in an unbiased way. We follow the criteria that was put in the request for proposals, and that's how that scoring is reflected. Obviously, the lowest price is the lowest price, but price in this instance only amounted to 15 points out of the total score. So really what we were looking for here is a very robust public engagement program, because we know how essential that is in exploring all these issues that committee has been talking about in this meeting.
And Fathom is based at Halifax. It's formerly Acoustics.
That's correct.
Okay. So Michael, Mr. Chair, just through the chair to Michael. So Michael, up to this point, what have we spent, and if you don't have it now, could you provide it later? What have we spent on doing the overall comprehensive review of the official plan? Because as Councillor Bernard and Duran know, this just didn't start in the last year. We started this back in, 2020, 2021, when we identified, and correct me if I'm wrong, identified funding under the gas tax at that time. Now it's the Canadian Communities Building Fund. So we took money from that, which is money that was to be used in other projects. Half is quite specific, it's for housing. CCBF is for infrastructure projects.
Right.
So could you just find out, and before we go to, this goes to council, how much did we spend, how much have we spent to this point?
But how far back are you talking about going?
It would be back to 2022 at least.
Well, before that, because we would have had official plans done in East Rawley. It was the first one.
Oh, no, this is when we brought in Upland planning.
Yeah, through the chair, we can certainly provide that information before the council meeting. Would you like me to send an email to all of council with that information?
I'd love to.
So again, back to the dollar value, is the committee, you've heard the director's responses, they only, 15% of the total decision based on,
I think,
based on dollar amount, is there?
I think, Mr. Chair, for me, we've had this discussion many times. I think sometimes people are focused on the price. The price is one part of the scoring, one. And I mean, so there's a number of criteria that, and the reason this was brought in, because years ago, we used to always go with the lowest bidder and we never got what, you have to pay for it basically. So the whole discussion around having the scoring was just on that, getting the best value for the best price you can. But the best price doesn't always necessarily win. It's one part of the
Lowest
criteria.
price.
The lowest price, sorry. That's just one part of the criteria. At the end of the day, it's the scoring that they go by. And so if we want to start ticking around with that, we've already got backlash on one other issue where we did go, council decided to go with a lower one and we got sued for it and we lost. So it's already been out there. So we set up a scoring process. Everybody that applies knows it. So if you want to start jumping around and get off that, they have a door to sue the city.
So so literally, is it the highest score wins it?
Yes. The overall score, the highest score.
Councillor Durang, I see you shaking your head. Any comments?
Yeah, lots of comments, but, yeah, this is under the, agreement fund, right? So this is, that's not our fund, not coming out
Well,
of
it's, in the
our,
end, it's all our money.
but no. So that's
We
why
do
the
pay
price-
federal taxes.
We do have, we're going with the overall score, but it's not the city of Charlottetown taxpayers' money. That's my understanding.
I'll move it.
Seconded.
Move it second.
I'm not sure what the difference would be, but I know that.
What
Either
that you
process
go
you
with?
agree with or you don't.
We're going with Fathom Studio.
The highest score.
That's score, yeah.
We're going with A, not C.
Okay. All good?
Oh, good.
Pass. Okay.
Councillor, okay, all right. Okay. Moving on to 6C, plan and areas related to staffing. Mike, you're just a hog for the agenda today.
Mike's dead.
Man, there's Richard at, Richard's not on this
Just
agenda.
probably
It
put
was
you on,
water and wastewater.
why don't you just put you on the committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The report related to this is on page 28 of your package today. The purpose is to provide an operational update to the committee and council and request additional resources. So as previously highlighted in a report in September, the city of Charlottetown has seen a significant surge in development activity in recent years. And a heightened demand for construction and renovation projects has placed considerable pressure on the planning and building inspection teams. These teams are responsible for ensuring compliance with zoning regulations, building codes, and safety standards, all of which are vital to maintaining orderly and safe development in the city. Currently, that workload has far surpassed the existing capacity of the building inspection team. The high volume of permit applications, inspections, and enforcement actions has led to delays in permit processing time and scheduling inspections. These delays negatively impact project timelines and, in turn, the overall development progress within the city. Our efforts to alleviate the workload by hiring contract personnel that was funded through the Housing Accelerator Fund have been unsuccessful due to difficulties in attracting qualified candidates. The building inspection field is highly specialized, requiring individuals with technical expertise and a deep understanding of municipal regulations and processes. Additionally, the competitive job market for these same professionals nationwide has made it increasingly difficult to fill positions on a temporary contract basis. Despite our continuous recruitment efforts, the city's ability to secure contract personnel has not met expectations. The situation has exacerbated the pressure on existing staff, leading to the need for a more sustainable solution in the future. Given our inability to attract contract personnel and the continued strain on the building inspection team, it's clear that temporary measures are insufficient to address the city's ongoing needs. As such, it is recommended that the position initially intended to be filled on a contract basis for a 3-year term be made full-time permanent. A permanent position would offer several advantages. One, attracting talent. Full-time positions are generally more appealing to candidates, offering both job security and benefits, which can attract a larger pool of qualified professionals. 2, retention. A permanent role would help the city retain experienced staff, reducing turnover and ensuring continuity of service. Number 3, efficiency, increasing the building inspection team's capacity on a permanent basis would reduce permit processing times, improve the scheduling of inspections, and support the city's ability to meet development demands in a timely manner. So our next steps, if this passes, would be to focus on a recruitment strategy with human resources to attract those skilled professionals that we're looking for. In the 2025-26 budget, we will be asking for budgetary consideration of additional permanent positions to this. 2 positions in particular, the manager of building codes, which was previously approved by council to be funded in the 2024-25 as part of a June 2023 resolution. This was deferred during budget deliberations this past year. So it just needs to be funded. And the second being a building inspector level 1, which would be an additional level 1 building inspector to our existing one. It's required really to provide essential capacity and succession planning in particular, related to work involving the enforcement of bylaws, building and fire codes and policies in the city. This position really would allow us to recruit personnel that may not be completely qualified as a level 1 today, but enable us to train them and build a more sustainable pipeline for talent within the building inspection team. And then finally, we'll continue to do assessment of the performance of the building inspection team and ongoing reporting to ensure that improvements in service delivery are realized. And so finally, by converting the current contract position into a full-time permanent role, the city is able to take a proactive approach to addressing the immediate staffing challenges that have been brought forward by the current development boom. This will ensure that Charlottetown maintains its commitment to efficient and safe urban development, meeting both current and future needs. And so respectfully, our recommendation at this time is that council approves the request to change the 3-year contract building inspector level 2 position to a full-time permanent position.
Thank you for that, Michael. Is there Councillor Bernard, question?
Yep, thank you. I agree 100%. I don't think you can put in somebody temporary these days, and people are looking for full-time work, so I agree with that. My question comes to the manager of the building codes. Budgetary consideration of additional permanent positions. If we pass a resolution in June of 2023, then I'm wondering why we would be asking for it again. If we've already, again, the resolution, did we approve to hire the manager position?
Through the chair, the resolution indicated that the position was to be approved but funded through a future year, so that resolution was passed in 2023. So effectively what we're asking for at this time is for the position to be funded as part of the consideration of this upcoming budgetary process. So
that's why I'm asking this question. I know, to me, it doesn't really have to do with this resolution, because we're asking for the other position, the inspector position. But the reason I'm wondering is, if we approved it, it should be approved. If we didn't, if we held off until we did the budget, then the council as a whole approved a little over $2 million to hire what the CAO felt was needed to be hired. So is that money not there for this position?
Through the chair, that's correct. The budget that was included in this past budget cycle in, I guess it would have been January to March, wasn't allocated for this position. So we need to allocate funding for that position in the upcoming budget.
Okay, and that's what I'm having a hard time understanding, because if this was passed in June, then it should be part of the $2 million, $2,055,000 that was passed for new hire. So sounds like we passed it, didn't fill it. Now are we asking for the same money again? Like, did the money get spent on something else?
through the chair, the money was not spent. There was no money allocated to that position. The resolution, as I recall, read that it would be funded in the, upcoming budget cycle, which would have been 2023-24. But that was deferred.
Okay, so Mike, where the disconnect is, so we approved it in June. With a caveat that, but the funding would be. So in the budget that we passed the end of March, we approved $2 million, a little over $2 million, for positions that the CAO felt she needed. So if this was passed in June, then you're saying this was not part of that list that she wanted to hire that we passed in March of '23? Is that what you're saying?
Of this past fiscal cycle, which would be 2024-25. So the resolution was in 2023 in June, and the budget for 2024-25 did not include funding for this position. So the changes in that resolution of June 2023 included basically the restructuring of the department at the time and reallocating funding within the department to fill those positions. But the manager of building codes position was to be funded during the 2024-25 budget by council, which ended up being deferred.
So Mike, is that because it was to competitive the accelerator funding? Is that why it was deferred until we got that money?
Through the chair, not to my knowledge. I'm not aware of any conversations around that. We're looking to fund that 3-year contract position, which is the subject of this report, through that fund, but the manager of building codes was not included as part of that spending plan at the time.
Okay. So this came after we passed the budget, then, so this is, okay. So this is a request for the 24-25 budget for hiring a manager then.
Yeah, so I'm
I still
again, through the chair, what I'm trying to do here is just lay out our next steps as we try and address the situation. So longer term or shorter term, my request here today is to change that contract position to a full-time permanent position. And then, in the medium term, look at discussions during our upcoming budget cycle for 2025-26 that we look at adding 2 additional positions to help fill and address some of that.
So that would just
Which would take you to 5.
Which would take us to a total of 6.
6.
But that's really, so it's information only, that's really part of the budget that's gonna be upcoming for this budget cycle, so.
That's correct.
Really didn't, it's just a heads up then, okay. Thank you.
Councillor Brown.
I have a
We can't see anything, we can't see anything.
That's good. I know the planning department, is very overworked. They need help. Anything that you could do to give them something would certainly be, anything the council can do to help them out. The city is booming. People are trying to put permits in. I talked to different developers. They're going other places because it's taking so long to get all their permits approved, the inspections. It's just easier to go somewhere else. So when someone comes to me and says, listen, why can't you guys get in sync there? So this upcoming budget season, we certainly have to look at doing something for that department. I know staff are overworked, or if a staff person goes on vacation or takes a leave, then permits are held up. People, sometimes until you're involved, until you speak to somebody, you don't know what the construction association means to the city. Like you have right from the get-go, people doing excavation, you're paying them. Then you get concrete people that are coming in to do your concrete. Then you got insulators, you got painters, you have plumbers, you have carpenters, you have roofers. And all that money goes into paying their families, to building houses. Like, I think the construction association takes a back seat sometimes. We're all for tourism, but the construction association fuels the economy. So if they're sitting here and they want to put in a building, whether it's a 60 unit or a 4 unit, and they have to wait until their approvals are approved, then their families, the people that are working for them, they need the money, so they go somewhere else where it's easier. So when we're sitting here and you say a building inspector, we can't get someone because it's a contract, but you want to approve it for 3 years, a new staff position, well, I'm all over that, we should do that. Because the department is in trouble, that they're overworked, people are screaming, people are upset, because it's money. If you're delayed a month, you lose your carpenter, or the plumber goes to another job. We need to have the inspectors, all the people in place to keep the development rolling, which in turn feeds the city because we get more tax money. So any time that you need or the department requests a logical staff position to help out, I'm all for that, and I hope that, council sees that, because we're in a struggle right now. Development needs to keep going, money needs to keep going. The city can get tax money, revenue back from that. So in your case of the Housing Accelerator Fund, have we hit the guidelines to hire the staff positions as was set out in that?
Through the chair, the initiative list didn't specifically identify hiring staff. That is a qualified, or it's spending that is permitted under the funding. So we are permitted to spend for that, which is why we brought forward all those positions to be funded under the Accelerator Fund. But what we are focused on with the Accelerator Fund is addressing some of those other issues that can impact timelines for approvals, like the regulatory environment. The zoning bylaw that we discussed today is a big part of that. Ultimately, we want to ensure a consistent process for approvals that's as efficient as possible, because to your point, time is money, and if folks are having to wait for approvals, ultimately the city has a duty to ensure that construction is done in a safe and orderly manner. However, delays in those approvals can impact the local business community and the local development community, certainly. And so we appreciated that, and that's why we're bringing forward both this request today, but also trying to move forward some of those bigger pieces to try and streamline the development environment here.
So,
Great, thank you.
so just to that point, I had reason to be into planning department earlier in the week. It wasn't a planning thing, it was a bylaw thing, and on my way out, I happened to have conversation with, I guess, is it Mr. Christian Jones, their inspectors?
Joseph.
So,
Shane Jones.
like, it was a real aha moment for me. So we're talking about, like, we have 2, we should have 5, we should have 6. I had no idea that in terms of building inspectors, every municipality of scale across the country needs them. But on a bigger point, so I get asked them about availability, like how difficult is it? It's real difficult to get them, but there's no real formal training program to become a building inspector. Like, you can't go to Holland College and enroll in a program to become a building inspector. Christian and Jones have just explained to me, yes, there's courses here and there, and you can kind of, there's ways I get, there's courses available that you can segue into. I'm surprised that, at a higher level of government, provincial, the Holland colleges, that somehow this, and Mike, you and I had the discussion, because I was sharing with you what these guys are sharing with me. So it's no wonder that we can't get projects through. You need a building inspector. You need building inspectors, and you can't get them. And and to which I said to you, does the city try and recruit and train our own? I mean, in the absence of no formal pipeline for this, that's not going to get fixed overnight. But anyway, that's just a rant. But it's pretty clear to me why we can't get things done. You can't get the employees. You can't get building inspectors. So what else are you gonna have but jammed up files? You can't get them through because they can't get proper accreditation. So that's not a problem the city can fix overnight. I think there's a bigger problem there that the construction industries and province gotta try to address that shortfall and that skill set for sure. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
And we wear it because, your planning department can't get stuff done, what are they doing? We don't have the staff, we can only do what we can do with what we got, we got 2 guys. So,
It's all,
Huh?
3, one's on maternity leave.
yeah, well,
anyway, I mean, obviously they're trying to speed it up, that's why they're asking to, not do a contract, but do a full-time position, which I think everybody agrees with. It's same as we went through with the police, instead of just hiring summer students, let's hire them permanent so we have them. But I guess, one of my other questions, and John, you and I were at this session in Calgary, and I'm just wondering, so the community, the city of Kelowna went through AI, and they've reduced their building permit applications, a standard building permit application from 30 days to 3 days. And they were still looking to approve that, and I'm wondering, have we had any discussions on, and this is probably a planning question more than anything, Mike, I'm just wondering if anybody anywhere in the corporation is talking about moving to AI to maybe help speed up a lot of these applications?
you mean artificial intelligence?
Yeah, well, that's the session that we went to in Calgary. And I mean, I was thoroughly impressed at a lot of the examples they gave, it's up and running. And there was a US company that would come into the cities for free to help set that up. And that's what they were offering, they're the ones doing the presentation. And then Kelowna, elected officials were there and their staff were there to give an overview of where they've come, how much of a difference that has made. They still retain all their staff, but like I say, a standard application, and you can do it online. And they were looking to get that down to 1 day, but it went from 30 days to 3 days to get up and running. So I hope that there is some discussion and I know everybody's really busy, but I mean, this thing here would speed up a lot of applications. And I hope somebody somewhere is having that discussion, because this company would come in for free to help set you up. So, but there is a process in setting it up too. It's a lot of getting all that data into play. So when somebody applies, it's a standard application.
Through the chair, that's a good point. So when I talk about some of the bigger items that we will be addressing too through the Housing Accelerator Fund, e-permitting was one of the key initiatives
I was
that
just gonna say, it falls under that maybe?
CMHC was looking for municipalities to bring to the table to try and be more efficient through that processing timeline for permits. So I know the IT team has been working on that so far.
Okay, good.
Our, if I recall, our timeline on that initiative is to have it completed in 2025. I can confirm that.
Is that just the e-permitting or is that the AI too, Mike?
The initiative was focused just on e-permitting, but certainly something that we can look into. I know that a number of municipalities are looking at AI in particular tied into that whole system.
Yeah.
So just to confirm with the committee here, our proposed completion date on the e-permitting system is November or end of November of 2025. So hopefully around this time next year we'll be looking at rolling out a little more sophisticated system where we'll be able to find additional efficiencies in our process.
Good,
So, Mr. Chair,
thank you.
e-permitting, that discussion started back in 2021. Remember?
Yeah.
Councillor Rivard.
Very well.
Like, here we are again, now we're looking at November 2025. Looking at the official plan, comprehensive review, started that 2 or 3 years ago. Like, these issues take a lot of time, and I know we have a lot on our plate. We can get down to the brass tacks, we can get down to the galvanized nails. The point is, in the budget that we passed for 24-25, I'm looking at the positions for planning and heritage. Builder inspector 2, contract, $87,571. Planning and Heritage, GIS Specialist Contract, $85,897. So we've hired the GIS person, correct? It says here for planning, GIS Specialist. Has that person been hired?
Through the chair, I'm not sure what the status is of
Okay,
that
so we don't
position.
know.
We have hired one additional staff member in asset management.
No, I know,
GIS,
but-
yeah,
but this
I
is in
don't think
planning.
the planning
Okay.
GIS position is.
And that money is coming from half, right? Both positions. So with the new position, I didn't see it there. What's the new position you're looking at? For the building inspector too? 85,000, 90,000, 100,000?
I can't recall off.
Be in that ballpark?
Yeah, probably around there.
Okay, so let's just keep this in mind. The half funding, like we're using that for a lot of positions, a lot of what we're doing. If we say no to one of those initiatives, the funding's gone. Okay, because that's what happened in Oakville, Ontario. They said no to one of the initiatives. CMHC said, your funding's gone. So let's keep that in the back of our mind. The other thing too, and Councillor Duran's right, I get the calls all the time. It's not just the approvals. You have to get the approval, then you have to get the building permit. Then after you get the building permit, then you have to go get an occupancy permit. So,
Inspections, 5 inspections.
and when he talks about inspections, and we said this in planning and development, standing committee on planning, development and heritage. Electrical and plumbing, we don't even do that. That's done by the province. Other provinces, other jurisdictions, they do plumbing, heating, building and so forth. So we got a pretty good deal here. So I'm supporting this additional position. And you know what? As Councillor Drawn knows, we're in the boom now, but you know what? There's gonna be a off boom too. And we discussed what we can do with these positions. They can be used for a lot of other issues related to the environment, our sustainability plan, climate change, climate action plan. Like there's a lot of stuff that we can do with these positions. All I wanna do is say, look, I support it, and I can't find the manager building codes. I'm gonna have to search for that resolution that was passed in June of 2023, did you say? Yeah, find out where that is. I think we need, Councillor Bernard, I think we need more hands on deck. We need people out there doing the inspections, people out there making sure the permits are being pushed through. And e-permitting, like if it's November 2025, can we push that a little more? Let's move that quicker than later. It's, like I said, we've discussed it and we've discussed it. We made decisions, checked off the box, ready to go, checked off the box. And here we are today, October 30th, 2024, naming some goalpost dates that we might be able to get initiatives going or in action or into play 3 or 4 years after we discussed. Again, like Dan, Richard, Michael, this is no blame on you. This has been ongoing. And we've been banging the pots and pans to try to get these initiatives through so we can get moving quickly in getting development through the door and out.
So I'll move this resolution, change the
second.
3-year contract to a full-time person. Did I cut you off?
All right,
I
I
think
was
you
just
wanna say
going
something?
to, through the chair,
Agree
clarify
with me?
around the funding or the spending plan and the position allotment. So in the spending plan that was approved by council, there was around 1.6 million that was allocated to contract positions tied to the Housing Accelerator Fund.
1.6?
1.6.
Okay,
And
moved
your
and
point
seconded.
is well taken in that, you know, it's not just the building inspectors and the planners that are involved in the development review process. There are external parties that are involved, you know, Maritime Electric even being one of them. Lawyers, our city engineers, they're all key components in the, you know, not only the development and building permit review, but subdivision as well, which all plays a part in, you know, trying to create a very efficient process in the future.
all right. Anyway, good discussions, some still, anyway, short-term solutions are quick, right, all in favor, okay, go to 6D,
Excuse me, Chair.
tenders, RFPs, RFQs, the director, CFO, Dan Jenkins.
Thank you, Chair. Just as a matter of housekeeping, 6A, I think you may need a mover and a seconder and a vote on that one for the
Yeah.
deferral.
And we can, do you want to do that now?
Yeah.
Moved by Mayor Brown, seconded by Councillor Bernard, that the special reserve fund be deferred for additional information.
Yeah.
So moved. Second. All right. Okay, thank you.
You have to have a resolution for that. Even at committee, just to get more information.
Well, if you're not gonna move it on to council, gonna
But it's just
defer it.
deferred. until we
Normally
get
it would
information.
go immediately to council, so the deferral would kick it off for another month. It's not clearly spelled out in the procedure.
Really
bylaw.
just deferring it for a month. Anyway,
Okay, Dan, on your report.
Yes, so, Chair, in your package, 60 is the report from Connie McGaw on the status of tenders and RFPs and RFQs. We had some discussion at the last council meeting about the Phase 2 project at in East Royalty on the Hertz Hall. That project has been withdrawn from the website. Just to clarify, at the request of Public Works. And I won't go through it, but if there's any questions, happy to respond as best I can.
Yeah, just a question on the supply of the 4 battery electric buses. Within budget, requires a budget increase of 887,000, so there's no, is there any, that wasn't, I guess, it's not an unexpected number, is it, or ask, or is it a?
Well, clearly it's higher than what the original budget was laid out in the capital budget for that project. But it seems to be, like a lot of capital items, particularly where there's strong demand for electric vehicles, that's the case. So I'm not surprised, but it's of course higher than what they originally anticipated, so.
and I can speak a little on that because that went through our committee the other day, so that's just since it was approved and since we have the order, the different timelines, the prices have gone up. So what we've been approved under the funding is still stagnant. It'll probably stay stagnant, but they're going to be getting a hold of them to see if we can also increase that funding that we're getting the electric buses under. I do know the required budget increase, the 887 before tax, that is changed. I think that's going to come down somewhat. I got an email from Jessica yesterday. Just that there was a one-time fee for the buses, which she thought it was every time, and it wasn't. So that will make a bit of a difference. Now, I don't have the final figure with me. But our portion, yes, I do. Our portion will be $775, not $887. So the new funding we're looking for is actually $775,308. And then that, Stratford and Cornwall have shares of $155 and $103. So our ask is not $887 now, it's $775, so it is a little lower.
And just the other question, Dan, on the Malpeck Road water station roof and retender, it says closed, within budget, yes. Was that, I know there was discussion, just not sure where it ended up or if it was slate or shingle. Maybe was that?
I would probably defer that to Director.
Chair is here.
On the chair.
Go ahead, Director.
So the one that you're seeing coming forward is for asphalt. So the initial recommendation will be for asphalt and for council to decide if they want to approve the asphalt tender or try to revert back to the slate tender.
Okay, thank you.
And just one question.
Yeah, Councilor.
Dan, it just goes back to your opening statement there about the Hertz Hall. I think you said that they pulled the tender And it was because there was no budget money? Is that why they pulled it, or?
It wasn't.
Scott wasn't here that
It was
night.
not ready to be posted. I think
Okay.
the department hadn't, didn't, it wasn't ready to be posted.
It was up
And
too
they-
early.
The department made that determination, so.
Cause I know, yeah, okay. It's somebody did tell me there was a bit of a mix up there, so. Did Councilor Duran notice that?
Yeah? Yeah?
So the tender, I'm looking at the capital, it was for 400,000. That's all?
The budget
Right.
was 400,000. I think
Right.
the first tender was about 485, if memory serves me right.
For the first tender, just to move the building?
Just to move the building, put it on a new
More than that,
foundation.
it's to move the building, fill up the foundation, build a piece on the back with their building. I think it was 481. That's right.
Well, but it was 81,000 over the budget.
Yes.
So how did we go from that to another budget item that we had questioned by the Council Duran? How did it get to that point?
It got there and it wasn't appropriate to be there, so it's been pulled.
Yeah.
But it wasn't in our budget.
Correct.
So was it a director issue? Was it a CFO issue? Like, how did that happen?
I just,
And I think, I only bring that up because I was still going with, that we were still within the 400,000. But then it evolved to a greater amount of money. Did we get tenders in?
no, I think they pulled it.
No, I know, but did we have an estimate? Like, anytime you do a project, you do an estimate, because to do the turnaround, we said 400,000. To do this extra work, what was the budget? Someone had to make a prediction to go to tender.
Yeah, so the original estimate for moving it and doing renovations at budget time was the 400,000. We issued a tender for all of the work. It came in at more than $1 million. So the project was broken into two parts. And then we went out for the tender to move it and put it on the new foundation, and that came in at 485,000, close to what had been budgeted.
And Richard, that's my point about tenders. When we had one tender, then we get a price in that's higher or double, and then we decide, okay, we're gonna break it down into two tenders. That's not how the tendering process works. I wish it did, because our company would have been much more successful in a lot of tenders for the provincial government here in Prince Edward Island or other governments. And that's why I keep going back, that's why I wanna have this discussion. J. Frank McConnell says phase one, phase two. But we were gonna amalgamate the two of them. No, that's not how it works. We budget 123, 170 for those two tenders. For the Hertz Hall, we had one tender, 400,000, right? And it went over that amount to 480. But you said that it was $1 million. How'd you get to $1 million? It was only to move a building.
But we originally issued the tender to move the building and complete renovations on it. That tender response came in at more than $1 million. So that was too much. We had only budgeted $400,000 for the project for this year. So we issued another tender to have the building moved onto a new foundation. And that tender came back again at a little bit over the budget, but council approved that portion of the work.
I don't know how people are moving homes and renovating them. I don't know why we're getting a price of $1 million when other people take a home, put it on a new foundation, renovate it, and it's affordable. But anyway,
So that was my question.
This.
We were gonna move that down towards the park, right? The whole intention was the roundabout was in the way, and then the snow removal was hitting the building.
Correct.
So we were gonna move it down the road, down by the new park. That was my intention, or what I understood.
just off the road where it is now, yeah.
But not where it is now.
Yep.
No,
That's what
it was
always
explained to me that we're moving it down towards, there was a parcel of land that we own where the new parks are going. Why would I sit there and say, okay, we're gonna move it 12 feet and spend 400 and some thousand? So to my surprise, it's sitting on a foundation now. And then to my other surprise, when I seen the tender, it's well over $1 million. And then you said, well, what are you talking about? Well, that's what it was. You're gonna replace the roof, the doors, the windows, the insulation. There's gonna be walls taken out. There's gonna be, like, it's like a brand new historic building, which wasn't approved by council. That's what I'm saying. And that's why it was so frustrating. For the last 8 years, I've been trying to get Sherwood Hall done. And then lo and behold, it was pulled for a year. You and I sat on finance and said there was 15,000 pulled from the hall at Sherwood, and the 400,000 was pulled for the Heritage or the Heritage Hall, Hertz Hall. And then we agreed to put it back in. And then when it goes from 400,000 to well over $1 million, it's like, you know, should have we just built a new building there, if that was the ultimate cost? You know, that's what it's so frustrating.
And I don't know where you would have heard it was going any further. That's where it was always intended to go. I've been trying to get it moved, Bobby, for 4 years. We've owned that land. And the province was supposed to put some money in to help us move it. So, and I know they committed a couple of years ago of some dollars to help move it. I think Scott was gonna be looking into that.
But I never would
that's where it was
I
always
never
intended
would
to
have
go.
agreed to move it twice. How many feet did you move it?
Not too much. They just turned it.
They just
They
turned
turned the
it.
building.
They took it right away from the road.
Like, I swear, we were sitting here and you said, well, we own land down there, we'll move it there. And then the CAO, there was a discussion there, and I said, listen, you know, move it down there. I never would have agreed, if I made the mistake of saying, we're just gonna turn it a few feet and put it on a foundation for 400,000, and then now go ahead and do everything I said before without repeating myself, it's well over $1 million.
Well, it's probably about 50 feet off the road, where last time it was about 5 feet. And it's turned around facing Robinson Road now.
Yeah, correct.
So it is quite a difference.
So where's the parking gonna go?
In front of it. It's
Like
moved
how
back,
many
it's also
spots?
moved back. It's moved over and back. We own that land. Right back to the roundabout.
I thought we were putting it down by the park.
Which
Down
means,
the street.
you mean Parkman's
Yeah.
soccer field.
Yeah,
Never
that's-
intended, that whole plan, I mean, you would have got a copy of the plan when we passed it. There's no building going down in the park. From the old lagoon, you mean?
yeah,
Nope. There's never a plan to put it down there.
I never would have,
Okay, so could I just
Feet.
ask, you've been around tenders, you guys have been around tenders.
Yeah.
So to get $1 million to move a building, there had to be more in the tender than just moving the building.
It was the renovations, it was moving and
But
renovating.
that's not here, that's
no,
Hertz Hall upgrades. I thought it was just to move the building.
The upgrades, the original tender that went out, that we had budgeted for, was for moving it and making improvements to it, the upgrades.
Okay, so Richard, we know that when you make improvements to a heritage building, it's not renovation, it's restoration.
Well, but even so, whatever you call it what you want, but it needs to be done. It's a dilapidated building. It's a heritage building, it's dilapidated on the side of a bypass highway.
Okay,
So
so,
get other people to clean up theirs, we should be cleaning up ours.
so
but not for the
In-
price of,
in terms of moving it, it cost us $480,000, correct, with the foundation?
the foundation.
Now, the next tender will be to do the upgrades
That will be the discussion at budget
as we
time.
go forward. Okay,
So what's there now? You put it on a foundation, half of the building's missing, so you're gonna have to build that. The
That's what's
stairs,
going on now.
the stairs are gone, the doors are falling down, the windows are rotted. Like, would there been a better way? Could we apply to Heritage Canada if you say it's a heritage building? Like, is it a national heritage building available for federal funding? Or is it just a building that, you know, it'd be nice to put $1.5 million into it to fix it up? I mean, you know, my idea, for $1.5 million, you could have built a brand new building with church windows like it is. Like, that's a lot of money to just sit
It
there.
is a lot, I'm actually surprised that it's that high, to be honest with you.
Well, did you read
Yeah.
did you read the tender?
No, I didn't.
Holy God,
but the tender talked about windows, doors.
119 pages. So someone had to sit down
I
and
know.
go over that with somebody. You know, whether it was, you know, our department or Fitz and Snow did the tender. So
They
someone put a extremely amount of time into it.
So Richard, is that who prepared, someone prepared the tender?
So Coles prepared the initial tender that did go out and we had the $1 million response. So the next thing they need to do is just break that original tender into two parts.
Well, again, I don't like breaking tenders into two parts. When you tender for something, right?
Well, sometimes you have to though,
Well,
depending on the project, Philip, but I mean, if you've got something that you need to do over 2 years,
then tender it that way. That's how you put out the tender. It's a 2-year project. And then everybody has a level playing field to put a bid into it.
well, the one you're,
Had that said that in the tender?
Yeah.
Is that what you read in the tender? Was
Oh,
it
I didn't get to read it. After about 60 pages, I said, what
Fell
is
asleep.
this? This wasn't discussed at council. You know, this is just, and then I just kept going, 118, 119. Like, this was a whole place done brand new. Wouldn't be an old piece of board on it, I guess, and else, I don't know. Like, as I said to you, it's 50 pages, and then I got to look at it, it was 119. Somebody somewhere had to sit down and do the whole evaluation.
but there must be more in the 481 than just moving the building on like I noticed they're putting a back on it now. So I don't know if the other one just fell off or what, but anyway, I don't think anybody envisioned that when they were gonna move it, it's gonna be $1 million move. I don't think anybody, you know,
Yeah.
even to me for 480.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People are taking homes and, you know, moving them off foundations and moving to another location and setting them up on a foundation. If it wasn't cost effective, they wouldn't be doing it. They would be just having somebody come in, pour a foundation, build a house.
So
So I
Councilor
was
Bernard,
surprised this was expensive as it was.
the fact that we're having this discussion just tells me again that a tender has to provide the scope of work. That's what it
My
has to do.
understanding is that, you know, and this one was pulled, I mean, I don't know where the mix-up was, but it sounds like there was another part of a renovation that they were looking to go to tender. But there hasn't been anything budgeted, so they pulled it. Cause somebody told me there was a mix-up and apologized and sorry, shouldn't have whatever. So, it's not like we don't make mistakes. We all make mistakes.
Just for clarification, I just pulled up the tender, so the tender that went out in the spring after budget approval was for the moving the building, not for the renovation, so it was concrete work, moving the services, moving the building.
Did it include a new foundation?
Yes,
You'd have to,
Yeah.
because the foundation was gone.
concrete forming, accessories, metal fabrication, erosion, excavation and fill,
Taking it the old foundation too, then that's right.
utilities and underground cables and underground services, that kind of stuff.
Is that the
So that-
108, is that the 118 page?
Yeah,
So that's the part that was tendered, that was
189.
481, so that's right too, so there's more than just moving it and putting up the foundation out there.
so the $1 million plus that Director McEwen's talking about was for the move and renovation in total. And then I guess the department made the determination that we could only afford to move it, and that's how the tender was specified.
But Richard, as an engineer, how would you split up the tender? How would you split up the tender to say, we're gonna jack the building up, turn it, put a foundation under, but we still have all these other pieces of work to do? How did we do that? If the tender was awarded, it should have been awarded for picking up the building, turning the building, new foundation, and all the other work required in that tender.
We didn't have the budget to do that.
So you said, let's do up to $400,000 work?
No, we re-tendered, we put out another tender in the hopes of being able to do something within the budget that was allocated for that property.
Okay, so why did Councillor Duran ask to withdraw the tender? This was on the floor to vote on.
It's the second tender.
It wasn't on the floor to vote on, he
No,
read it on
it
read it online.
it was inadvertently put online when it was,
It shouldn't have been on.
Yeah.
so there was a big tender that we broke into two parts. One part has been
Already-
awarded, the work is underway. The second piece to it was simply, okay, we had that big tender, now we have that second tender that'll be ready if the work is approved
Okay,
at
so-
budget time.
That second tender, whatever you wanna call it, that went back through Public Works? Standing Committee?
No,
Hasn't-
no,
hasn't-
no, it was only at the staff level.
Well, but how can you put a tender out if it
That's what they
didn't?
say was a mistake they made, that's what they're saying. They
Well,
made a mistake and they pulled
Luckily,
it.
someone caught it.
Yes.
Must be what?
Luckily, someone caught it.
Oh, I mean, we wouldn't have awarded it,
Yeah.
it just
I mean, even if
inadvertently.
they come in, it wouldn't have been awarded, because we've never talked about it budgeted for.
Anyways, our processes for tendering, guys,
So it would have to be approved in this next, possibly if it's gonna be approved in this next budget cycle.
They'll be requesting it, yeah. But I mean, I can see it as two separate, I mean, you do the move, get it off the road, so it's done. Now, if council wants to do the rest, it's up to council.
You have to.
So is there heat and everything hooked up to it now?
There will be, yes, yeah, all the utilities.
So they're gonna put the back on it?
Well, like I say, they're doing that now, Bob, because I went by the other day.
And that's part of the $480,000 tender, right?
I'm not as familiar with it.
Okay.
It was
Yeah,
only
but-
400, right? It was only 400.
Before I go
Was it
too
480?
far.
481.
No,
That's what the tender was?
that's what we paid, right?
Yes.
So that's what I mean, it went over the 400.
Okay, so
So we had to have a vote when did we have the vote here financed to approve that other additional 80,000?
Was approved at council.
But anyways,
And I'm gonna have to get going, you worse, I gotta get back to work for 2.
oh my God, it's 1:39. Good time here.
Okay, can we, do 6E, monthly financial report, Dan, if you can
Sure.
speed us through that and get to get to 6G?
Yeah, nothing unusual that I see in the monthly financial report. I would, the report is what comes off the system, but there's no real month-end process that there would be with your year-end financial statements to set up accrued liabilities or record depreciation, amortization, so it really is a snapshot in time. It's helpful, but I don't think we can take any large lessons from what's there. But it's just an indication that our banks are reconciled and we have the revenue recorded and the expenses in the appropriate place. It does point to another surplus, but it's early days yet, and we'll have more accurate information when the departments have a chance to do their forecasts for the current fiscal year in December, and those will come to committees in January.
Is there a quick question, if anyone has?
It's looking good, looks good.
Okay, in the absence of that, can we get to 6G? Motion to go into closed session as it relates to the MGA, section 119, 1B.
Before you do, I just have some questions on the budget planning discussion.
Okay,
That's 6F.
okay,
Is that all right?
yep, go ahead.
Okay, just reading notes, I'm just reading out the budget objectives. And I understand some teams, Dan, you have committees or managers meeting with you now, and they're bringing their budgets into senior management, is that correct?
Yeah, so the meeting on October 24th was with all department heads and the directors and the chiefs. And we just basically wanted to get together to discuss how we were going to proceed with the budget process this year. So just kind of very high level, what timing, when we were hoping to get things together, to get to committee, to get to council. We talked about, some of the details in terms of, there were some complaints last year with the budget book being a little thin on detail. So there was good support there for going back to the kind of budget book that we had in 23-24.
Yeah.
That had the detailed schedules of, positions and
so.
so, yeah, we just kind of came to some agreement in terms of the timelines, and those are outlined in both the report and the notes from the meeting there, which I just wanted to share with you. Also, gives you some indication of the feedback that we received from both members of council and the department heads in terms of their thoughts on last year's process and what they'd like to see for this year. So, yeah, that just for sharing with you in terms of where our thinking is.
And I just want to make sure that, it goes through the committees, it goes through the chairs before it moves anywhere, that elected officials have a say in it. It's always been that it's the the different chairs that are doing all the discussion for the committees. So just wanted to make sure, because obviously the elected officials are gonna wanna have some input to what they wanna see in the capital budget, or the operational budget, or whatever. And I did read here where we're looking to get the capital budget done by the end of November, which would be great, because that's where we get the good pricing, get it in December, January.
Yes, the hope was that we would have capital budgets to committees in through December. So departments and the leadership would have a chance to review them and then bring them to committees in December. And then the other thought was that we hopefully would be far enough ahead sometime mid to late part of January to kind of do preliminary approval on some key capital projects that we knew were time sensitive to get good pricing. So we wouldn't have to approve all the capital budget, but if there were kind of key projects that we thought were important to get
Yeah, it never
get
usually
through.
takes a long time to get the capital projects out of the way. It's more, usually the operational takes a lot more discussion, so we should be able to get through the capital budget very quickly. I hope they do the capital first, operational next, and then extenuating after that.
Yeah, so the proposal is to look at the capital budgets first and then look at the operational budgets. We can do a kind of an approval on some of the core projects like primary services, but as the asks grow and we get into big numbers, we probably wanna, we really need to consider those in relation to the operational budget without kind of going too deep. So we would defer making decisions on some of those nice to have projects
Right.
until
Right.
later, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Just to follow up there, Councillor Bernard, I think with your past experience, Councillor Duran, you've been around the table. Look, when you do the capital budget, do the whole capital budget. Let's get it done. And look, guys, we're not even done our third quarter yet. Like, we got another quarter left come December, January 1st. Like, my preference is if we're gonna do the capital budget, do the whole thing. Get it out there so we can start looking for tendering prices, whether it's water, wastewater, public works, parks and recreation. And then if we have to make adjustments, we always make adjustments throughout the year anyways, if we have.
Yeah, I think we've done it in the past. I mean, we've had it out as early as November. I think one of the things that, Dan, that we do is, once the province pounds out their tenders, then we become the bottom feeders. I mean, everybody's got their contracts, so they charge big prices.
Yep.
And that's why it would be nice to have the capital done as soon as possible. We can get that. That's usually, doesn't take real long. Like a month, should be able to get agreement.
And just quickly, Mr. Chair, in our minutes from the last meeting, we talked about the procurement bylaw. Dan did state some sort of goalpost. So Dan, you're looking at December 2024 for a draft bylaw for procurement?
Yeah.
Okay, and then January, February revised bylaw for 2025, March 2025.
Yeah, so to committee and council for discussion through January and February, hopefully be able to get it wrapped up in March.
So we'll have something ready for the new 25-26 budget here. Okay. Also, you have down here, something that I brought up many times, the vacant property tax.
Yep.
I think I sent you the link through what St. John's doing, St. John, New Brunswick. There's a person out there that's already designated or dedicated to this file in St. John and how they're working with the province. It's something we have to look at because, you know, it's happening in other jurisdictions. We should at least explore what's going on in other jurisdictions.
For what?
Vacant property tax, vacant,
Didn't we pass one, at least for first floors?
if we did, your
don't
research
think
would have
so.
showed it.
No? Okay.
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Right, okay, again, repeat myself, 6G, move into a closed section, on, the MGA, section 119, 1B, matters as it relates to, funding negotiations and, couple of other items there. So,
I move it.
moved by Mayor Brown, seconded by Councillor Bernard. All right, so moved. And if the technical people can confirm if we're closed. Number 8, motion adjourn.
Moved.
Seconded by Councilor Crop.
Thank you very much.
Adjourn.